you very much for having us here. By us, I mean petroleum industry. It's not every day that we get invited to be part of the discussion and sit at the table with everybody else. They always say that those people, they like licking rocks. They're probably somewhere out there doing what they do. But for today, you invited us. I want also just to make another disclaimer that although the program say Mr. Brian Asem, this is Maggy Shino and not Brian Asem, but sure you can see by the volume of hair on my head and the height of my heel, it's definitely not Mr. Asem, but I am representing him as I stand here also because my voice is speaking, the voice of the Minister of Mines and Energy. But before I commence the conversation that I want us to have or the information that I want to share with you, I also want to take the floor, Madam Facilitator, to again invite somebody else to the podium to join me because this is going to be a joint presentation between the Minister of Mines and Energy and our child organization, which we call the Petro Fund. Allow me to welcome to the podium Ms. Mulemi. Ms. Mulemi is the Chief Executive Officer for the Petro Fund, which is an institution that has been established by the legislation that governs the oil and gas industry, the upstream sector in Namibia. Ms. Mulemi, please come to the floor. The presentation that we'll give you today is demarcated in two portions. The first portion, I'm just going to give you the status of the industry, giving you the mandate of the ministry, the legislative framework that governs our operation, and then also give you an update in terms of the discoveries that have created a hype and a buzz around in Namibia in terms of what we have. Then I will stop at that point because the issue that deals with human resource and capacity building for the petroleum sector, and when we're speaking about the petroleum upstream sector, has been wholly and 100% handed over to a full institution, which is the Petro Fund, that administers this role on behalf of us as the Minister of Mines and Energy. In terms of the mandate of the ministry, we, Minister of Mines and Energy, are constitutionally established for us to be able to take custody of the diverse geological, mineral, and energy resources, and to ensure that they are contributing to the country's socio-economic development. So we are responsible for ensuring, therefore, that we have created a conducive environment for us to be able to locate the accumulation of all natural resources, energy resources that we find in the ground, especially for our mandate then with the petrol. But once we find that resources and where it is accumulated within the Earth's subsurface, we also have the mandate of ensuring, therefore, that these resources have an impact to the Namibian economy, and that the Namibian people yield benefit from these resources, and that we grow the economy together with on these resources. So on that note, the Petroleum Affairs Directorate, which sits within the Ministry of Mines and Energy, is therefore responsible for ensuring that there is adequate supply of petroleum product to the nation, as petroleum product is a fuel that is driving our economy. And we also then have a responsibility of ensuring that we minimize the negative impact of the petroleum resources exploitation to the environment. We work within the Namibian very sensitive ecosystem, and it's our responsibility to make sure that our operation and our activities as we are undertaking them ensures that the environment is sustained in its pristine condition, and that we do not cause any harm as we are working within one sector that has a possibility of being creating a catastrophic impact to the environment where we are operating in. Then after that, we therefore then ensure that we have created value for society, which is the Namibian people, from the petroleum sector, which is both the upstream and the downstream sector. But for our conversation today, I'm going to focus mainly only on the upstream. Although I have a mandate, or the Ministry, the Directorate of Petroleum Affairs have a mandate that run widely from the upstream to the downstream. I'm going to speak to you only on the upstream because these two sectors are so diverse. You require a conversation each on its own for you to be able to, if we are talking about issues of human resource and capacity building, each have their own unique requirements. And for that, we always administer these two sectors separately. The legislation that governs the upstream sector, we deal with the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act, which is of 1991. In this act is where we draw the power, where we are able to issue licenses, where we are able to negotiate and design work programs for investors when they come in, and where we are also able then to dictate how do we want the oil and gas to be produced once discoveries are made in Namibia. With that legal instrument, that enables us only to manage the operation. We therefore have another piece of legislation that is important to the building of the economy of Namibia, which is the Petroleum Taxation Act, also of 1991. Within this act is where we put then our fiscal regime, which is a regime that is like a unique identity of our country in terms of oil and gas matters, in terms of the upstream. It's within this legal instrument where we have our royalty set, where we charge 5%. It's where we have the petroleum income tax, which is 35%. It's also where we have the additional profit tax thresholds are set. And it's where we know exactly, in terms of when a barrel is being produced, before it comes to the surface, how much does the Namibian government, how much will the Namibian government take equity out of that barrel, and how do we govern, how do we ensure that the fiscus get what they deserve from that barrel. With all of this, time as the industry, the petroleum industry is quite a dynamic industry. It's well driven by issues that are happening in the international markets, and it usually keeps on changing. Usually when it changes, we also make sure that we change our laws to ensure that we align them to the requirements of the market, because we are serving the industry, we are serving the market, and we are dependent for the success of this industry. We are dependent on ensuring that the market, we are aligned to the market. And because of that, we also then have the Petroleum Laws and Amendment Act, which was established for 1998, where changes have been introduced. And at this stage, we are also, because of the time that has lapsed, and also the developments that have happened now in the industry, we are also busy tightening the administration and making also some changes to the law so that we can be responsive enough. With all these, there's therefore one document that governs a day-to-day operation of a license holder. And this document is what we call the Petroleum Agreement. Within the Petroleum Agreement, that is where the Namibian government, together with the license holder, whoever have applied, whether it's a local company, whether it's an international company, where we set the terms and conditions, the rules of engagement for them to be able to operate this within this license that they have. And it's within this model Petroleum Agreement under Clause 22 where the Namibian government, the forefathers who were at that stage designing the Petroleum Agreement, they realized that the oil industry is not, it's unique in terms of its requirement. It's so specialized that the amount of investment that are required for a country to be able to build its capacity are quite big. And because of that, a decision was made for us to mandate all the license holders to be able to make a contribution to building the capacity of Namibia. So every license that we have in country have an obligation to contribute what we call a Petro Fund contribution annually, and with that money is where therefore we are able to build the capacity. But also building the capacities is such a mammoth task that you cannot trust it to, or you cannot let alone a directorate be responsible for administering this. It was therefore established and long seen or envisioned at that stage that we need to have an institution that is just responsible for safeguarding and ensuring that capacity is built in this highly specialized sector. And it's because of that clause 22 of the Petroleum Agreement and the contributions that are made on an annual basis by the license holder, that's how we therefore have the Petro Fund Institute established and how they are managing therefore to build, to develop the capacity and upskill the nation. Now, in terms of our operation, on the screen is our license map. The line that you see, the blue line that you see to the west is what demarcates between onshore, which is on land, and offshore, which is in the sea. So by law, by constitution, the country has already been demarcated into blocks that are divided by degree. These blocks are 10,000 square kilometers each, and a person or an individual, a company, just select the area that they want to operate in, and then we issue a license depending on that block. What you can see on the screen is therefore how busy we are as a country. All the areas that are dashed, that are colored, are areas that we have already issued licenses, and the white areas where it's appearing to be white are blocks that are available. But for today, for our discoveries, I want to talk to you and concentrate more on the offshore in the area that we call the Orange Basin. Yeah, it doesn't say. The Orange Basin is a geological basin. Offshore, we have 4 basins, which is areas of distinct geological features, if I can put it that way. Up north, bordering with Angola, we share what we call the Namibian Basin. And then following the Namibian Basin, we have the Walvis Basin. After the Walvis Basin, then we have the Lutherans Basin. And then below, closer, if you are trying to, which we share with South Africa, is then what we call the Orange Basin. Within this Orange Basin, that is where we have had the hive of activity, and that is where we have the discoveries that we have made right now. These discoveries that you are hearing now being spoken about are not, this is not the first time Namibia is discovering oil and gas. In 1974, a well was drilled, the first well that was drilled in Namibia, an exploration well was drilled in what we call, in the Orange Basin, and with that well made a discovery of natural gas in what we call the Kudu gas field today. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. Within the Kudu gas field, we have therefore natural gas that is accumulated there. Discovery was made of natural gas. We have about 1.3 TCF of natural gas volume that's available there. And our plan is for us to be able to develop it and be able to make, to bring the gas to the shore through a pipeline, locate it in Lutherans, and then develop what we call a gas to power. With the energy deficit that we are experiencing within the region, we think with the Kudu gas we can be able to produce enough electricity that can enable us to stop the import of power, and also enable us to be a net exporter of power within the SADC region. So it's one of the projects that we have. The gas has not escaped, but what I want to put to your attention is that the natural resources, oil and gas resources, are very much dependent on the timing and also respond very much to the market condition. With our Kudu gas project, the reason why we haven't been able to develop it yet is because we haven't been able to successfully attract the investment that is needed to be able to develop this field. When we're speaking about the investment, that the additional discoveries that we have made, therefore, moving Kudu is 170 kilometers, but if you move now further from Oranienmund past Kudu, 250 kilometers into the sea, you will then be able to find what we call the Graph discovery, which was made by Shell. Shell made this discovery in 2022, and then immediately after that also drilled another well, Larona, and all this confirmed a very big accumulation of oil that is found in this area. The partners in there are Qatar Energy and Namco, and it's light crude oil, and if we appraise and we are successful in ensuring that the oil is able to float to the surface, we should be able to produce about 250 to 500, 400 million barrels of oil from this field. That is one field. Another field that has also been discovered by Shell is also called the Yonka. We move again about 270 kilometers, about 20 kilometers from the Graph, and again is another discovery of light crude oil, bigger than the Graph, and here we can have about 300 to 400 million barrels, also with the same partners. Then we move further into even more deeper water, 300 kilometers in terms of distance, and 3.5 kilometers of water depth before you reach to the discovery, is where we have then the total giant discovery, which is called the Venus. Also, the partners here are Total Energy, Qatar, Impact Oil and Gas, and Namco, and we think that this is a giant because it has an ability of being able to produce about 2 billion barrels. But the challenge that we have still as a country is that this is a very specialized environment. The Atlantic condition is so rough, the water depth is too much, 3.5 kilometers, and the distance to the shore, 300 kilometers, is too much. We therefore need to be able to have the right skills and the right capacity to either attract the investment and sustain it, or to be able then to operate and technically be able to produce this oil, these resources, and bring it to the surface. At this point, I'll hand over to Ms. Mulemi, then to tell us the capacity need that we will have for us to be able to bring these resources to the shore.